Of course. So a trials unit can be there to support the project that you're proposing to do as part of your fellowship. So really, if it's a complex project that's looking at a trial design or some kind of study design, particularly if it's looking at collecting quantitative data, then a trials unit can be there to support you. And the idea is that it's really there to support your learning, stretch your learning, improve your knowledge of how we work. So looking at the project, it's really what can we provide to support you deliver that project? Because as much as this is a fellowship, an individual pathway for you, you do have to have the right support around you to deliver a project. So, as I said in my previous answer, there will be times it does need a CTU, and that's usually around delivering some kind of trial or clinical study. It doesn't have to be randomized, but some kind of study that's looking at that clinical aspect of the study. Not all projects will need CTUs. However, sometimes you will find particular expertise of people cited within CTUs that you want on your project. So it's really dependent on what your project is and what you can gain from the expertise. So as I say, there may be somebody cited within a CTU that you really want to gain their knowledge in a particular methodology they have or a particular design that they use. And so that's when you pick up a CTU, but not all fellowship projects require CTU input. So yes, designing your project and what you want to do in your fellowship can be supported by the CTU. So it's a really good idea to contact us early so that we can help you with that design element and deciding what you want to put in as part of that project and what you want to keep as part of your fellowship development, your individual development. So it may be that you want to have a placement at a CTU. It may be that you want to actually develop a project alongside us, or that it may be that you just need to be involved in seminars and the workshops that we do within the CTU to be able to develop your training. So we suggest people on any application, whether it be fellowship or project, contact us at least 6 to 8 weeks before the funding deadline. However, that is really cutting it really fine, particularly for fellowship projects, because what you want to see is that development of the individual, not just the project. So if it's a standalone project, we can work those up pretty well. But what we want to see in a fellowship is that development of the individual. And so in any application that's made for us in terms of supporting a fellowship, in that first application, I'd want to see why us as a CTU, what expertise are you looking to gain from us? What training are you want to gain from us? How else are you looking to develop yourself as an individual? So I think in that first point across, it's really around the bits outside the project. Although the project is central to any fellowship, it is what are you going to do? What are you getting out of this as an individual in terms of your training plan? So some of the, I certainly know our collaboration form can be a little bit difficult to put that in because there's not really a huge amount of space. So for fellowship applications, I'd really suggest at the bottom of our collaboration form, there's a tick box to say, can I have a meeting? And I'd really suggest ticking that box and coming to have a meeting with one of us before you put that collaboration request in, because fellowships can get a little bit lost in that system. We're so used to reviewing projects that fellowships do need to be handled slightly differently. I think badging it too much as a project rather than a fellowship. The amount of times on funding panels that I sit and look at these applications and say, but why is this not being put forward as a project? I'm not seeing the individual develop themselves. I'm not seeing them widen their networks or their scope in any way. They're not stretching their expertise. What I don't want to be seeing as part of a fellowship application is somebody being very comfortable in, say, the methodology, in the network that they're doing this in the scope that they're looking at. So anything that's looking to stretch them as an individual would be really important to have as part of those fellowship applications. What you don't want the panel to look at is an application that essentially they say this should be a project and therefore should be going for a different type of funding. So for me, when I'm working with people looking to develop a fellowship application, I'm asking them to take me back to the very beginnings, the very edges of what they want to do. What do they want to get out of this application? What are their personal goals, their personal aims and objectives? And yes, some of that may get lost along the way, but what you want to have is then project goals that work to those personal aims and objectives, so that you end up with developing yourself as part of the project rather than the project driving your development. Take your time in developing your fellowship application. These are fundamentally different to project grants. Project grants are there to be picked up by lots of different people. The fellowship is for you. So it's about developing your career trajectory, your research trajectory, whatever trajectory it is. And so taking your time to make sure it really fits with who you are and where you want to be would be the most important thing to have from a fellowship. Get a good mentor team in, make sure they're supporting you in your direction. And I think that would strengthen any fellowship application you can make.